as well as pediatric ICU is growing because of the COVID-19. So we all, whether working in pediatric ICU or in adult ICU, the principles of ventilation are almost same. So wherever we learn mechanical ventilation, that will be useful for the area where you are working. As people think that mechanical ventilation is something very difficult, I would say this is not very difficult. This is the easiest, but it needs constant supervision and monitoring, because this is not just a procedure that you will do and then you will go away. You have to be connected with the person who is monitoring the ventilator. So ventilating a patient is a full-time job. Once you put the patient on ventilator, immediately after that, you must start thinking that how you would wean the patient on ventilator, because ventilator is a machine, and you are using your brain to give instructions so that the patient is smoothly and as quickly as possible, the patient is weaned off from ventilator. So just connecting a ventilator and forgetting is equivalent to killing that person. So do not forget, once you decide to ventilate, you must monitor the patient and must have the facilities for the proper monitoring. As far as this workshop is concerned, I have divided this workshop into different segments, and I would like to involve our senior postgraduates as well as some of the faculty members like Dr. Samina. They will also play a role in conducting this workshop. So I have divided, for the purpose of learning, I have divided this whole workshop into 6 modules. The module 1, M1, is the basics of mechanical ventilation that we will be discussing today. Each module, once you learn one module, only then you will be able to understand the other modules. So these modules are sequential, and there will be no repetition of the since the time is short, and in between the modules, like this module is being conducted today, the next module will be on next Saturday. So if someone miss, you can get the recording of this or you can get the presentation, so that they should be on board with us on the next module. So modules are all sequential, and you need to be focused, and you need to learn all the queries that are being raised during that module. So module 1 is about the basics of mechanical ventilation. I will be conducting this session, and the next session, module 2, along with me, Dr. Samina will be helping me in the interpretation of ABGs. That will be with the next week, and then the practical demonstration of equipment, parameter settings, circuits, and endotracheal tube selection. So all the issues that we deal with the ventilator, we will have a recording, and we will demonstrate that how to select endotracheal tube, how the monitor of the ventilator look like, and how the parameters they will be adjusted, and how circuits are made, and how the leakage and functioning of the machine is checked. So this will be a complete one module that will be probably conducted by Dr. Junaid. Next is M4, monitoring care of the ventilated patient, some nursing aspects, and documentation. The most important is because if we do not document, then we will not be able to understand what is going on, because we see one value and then we proceed according to that. So monitoring sheet, development of monitoring sheet, and then follow-up is very important. So there will be a complete module on monitoring care of ventilated patient, monitoring of the values given by the ventilator, as well as monitoring the lab values, including ABGs and other things, and then how to document. So we will give a complete demonstration on that. Then after we have learned all the 4 modules, we will have typical cases which need ventilation, and we will demonstrate by an interactive way that how the patient is put on ventilator, how the different things are played, and how the patient is gradually weaned off, and how the patient is removed and disconnected from the ventilator. So this will be a complete module of interactive sessions in which we will have different case scenarios, and we will involve different participants in each case scenarios to solve those case scenarios. The last module will be assessment. We will have an MCQ test online, and after that test, if the people secure good results, then we will, according to the results, we will distribute certificates, and this will be the last part of it. And we will try to hold some certificate distribution ceremony as well, if possible. So this is the whole introduction of the complete workshop. And today we will be focusing on M1 only, module 1. So what are the basics of mechanical ventilation? We must understand what are the indications and what are the objectives of ventilation. Because the objectives of ventilation are different in different indications. If a patient has CNS disease, objectives are different. If the patient has respiratory disease, the objective of ventilation are different. If the patient has cardiac issues, then the goals are different. So the ventilation is not just you just ask machine to start ventilation. You must have a brain behind that is asking ventilator to do what you want to get the machine to do. So indications and objectives. We should set objectives. Then different terminologies that we'll be using during handling of these devices, how to set different ventilator parameters, and once you set these parameters, how these parameters will behave, and then we should try to understand what is breath size of ventilated breath as well as the spontaneous breath. Then how do the modes work? There are different modes in the ventilator. How do they work, and how we monitor different calculations given by the ventilator, and how to deal with the alarms. So these are the very basic things. Those who are using ventilator, they already know majority of the things, and for them this will be just a revision. But since the workshop is a very structured workshop, so we would like, if someone already know, they can help me, and we will have a coordinated progress in this session. So what are the indications of ventilation? Why we ventilate a patient? The commonest reason for ventilation is respiratory failure. What is respiratory failure? What is respiratory failure? The inability of the respiratory system to supply oxygen and eliminate carbon dioxide. This is the respiratory failure, simple definition. So if we want to confirm it biochemically, if PCO2 is more than 50 and PO2 is less than 60, this is respiratory failure. Type 1, if there is only hypoxia, and type 2, if there is hypoxia with hypercarbia. So these are the common things that are known to everyone. Now, there are two problems. One is when a child or a person suffer from respiratory failure, there are basically two types of failure. You can have pump failure. There is, like in heart failure, you have a pump failure, and then you have circulatory failure. In respiratory system, the pump is the respiratory muscles. And how the respiratory muscle failure can take place, like it can be due to muscular paralysis. It can be due to the disturbance with the neuromuscular junction. It can be due to the neuropathy or many other things like brainstem disease. So pump failure is the failure in which the respiratory muscle fails to contract. And the gas exchange failure is in which there is any problem in the airways. If there is any problem starting from the nose, mouth, airways to the pleura, if there is any problem, there is obstruction, there is a disease that is called gas exchange apparatus failure. Pump failure is if there is any problem with the brain. So how the pump failure will take place? So start functioning from the brainstem, where there is a control of the nerves of respiratory muscles. So brainstem, there is the disease of the brainstem. If there is a disease of spinal cord like transverse myelitis, there is transection of spinal cord. or there is damage to the nerve root, there is damage to the peripheral nerve, there is problem with the neuromuscular junction or to the muscle as such. So different diseases, brain tumors, spinal cord lesions, nerve injuries, neuromuscular junction like myasthenia gravis, and respiratory paralysis like GB syndrome. So these are the all different conditions which will affect the pump. So there will be ventilatory failure. The pump will not function, there will not go, so the patient will need ventilation. If we focus on the gas exchange apparatus, it starts from airways, then lungs, then pleura, and then chest wall. So if there is any problem with any of these systems, there is obstruction or malfunctioning, it will end up with the respiratory failure. So these are the all different conditions of pump failure. If there is a inability of the respiratory muscles to contract due to CNS disease, spinal cord disease, neuromuscular disease, or chest wound, I will not go into the details. Then gas exchange apparatus, you all know if there is obstruction of the upper airways like epiglottitis, like tube, like foreign body, or small airway obstruction. The common conditions which cause small airway obstruction are bronchiolitis, aspiration pneumonia, asthma, and other conditions. Alveolar damage may be due to pneumonia, ARDS, COVID is very common, and sepsis and drowning. Don't forget drowning. So aspiration of the fluid in the alveoli. So all these are the problems of the gas exchange failure. Now, what happens with the respiratory failure? One is hypoventilation. Why hypoventilation takes place? If the respiratory muscles fail to contract, there will be hypoventilation. The air will not go in, so the ventilation will not take place. Hypoventilation. Hypoventilation may be due to obstruction of the airways or may be due to paralysis of the respiratory muscles, so air will not go. So hypoventilation. Ventilation is there, but there is ventilation perfusion mismatch. Like there are some airways which are not perfused, so there is no use of ventilating those airways, and there are some alveoli which are not getting air, but the perfusion is there. So there is no use of that perfusion. So either the perfusion is problem or ventilation is problem. You have to have both ventilation and perfusion to maintain oxygenation. So after hypoventilation, the ventilation perfusion issues, they can have hypoventilation and hypoxia. So these are the shunting. Shunting means the blood is circulating and going without getting oxygen, and increased dead space means the alveoli are enlarged and they are not delivering oxygen to the vessels. Then diffusion capacity, like if the alveoli are lined with the exudate, like in pneumonia, alveoli filled with material, like in aspiration pneumonia, like in drowning. So the gases cannot go from the alveoli directly to the vessel. So these are the three basic mechanisms which cause respiratory failure. So one is pump failure, other is ventilation perfusion mismatch, and there is diffusion problems. So this is just an example and show how these things, hypoventilation means air is not going to the lungs. So whatever the circulation will go, there will be deoxygenated blood in the circulation. Similarly, if the circulation is good, but if the circulation is good, air is good, then there will be oxygenation of the blood. If there is no air entry, there will be no oxygenation. So these are just the things that have already been discussed. So how will proceed mechanical ventilation? Types of ventilation. It's invasive and non-invasive ventilation. What do you mean by invasive ventilation? What do we mean by non-invasive ventilation? Invasive ventilation means in which we pass endotracheal tube beyond the glottis. So if we intubate the patient or pass tracheostomy tube, that is invasive ventilation. If we use simple nasal bronch or face mask or things, that is non-invasive ventilation. So there is a trend towards non-invasive ventilation, that is either CPAP, BiPAP, through the nasal masks or nasal cannula. And invasive ventilation is through the conventional ventilation, that is through endotracheal tube with the conventional ventilator and the high frequency ventilation. So this is positive pressure ventilation with the non-invasive positive pressure ventilation with face mask, BiPAP, CPAP, and this is negative pressure in which the chest cage is given the negative intrathoracic pressure through the equipment applied. So we do not have much experience with the negative pressure ventilation. So positive pressure ventilation is the delivery of the high pressure through the airways directly to the lungs and delivery the gassing directly. This is the invasive ventilation already discussed. Now, coming to the behavior of the different parameters. So these are the different keys that the people who are using ventilator, they are aware of it, and those who have not seen the ventilator, we will be demonstrating all things. They just try to understand what is the purpose of these. These are the very important keys which we need to learn. So one by one, we will be discussing FiO2 rate. So these are the values. These are actually the commands that we'll give to the ventilator, and these commands will be delivered to the patient directly by the machine. So these are the instructions to the machine. So these include FiO2 rate, PEEP positive, and expiratory pressure, PIP, peak inspiratory pressure, inspiration time. Is there any query? Inspiration time, expiration time, tidal volume, figures, and I'll be discussing one by one. So what is FiO2? Normally in the room air there is 21% oxygen. So if the patient is connected to the ventilator and the patient's lungs are normal, then the patient just needs room air oxygen, that is 21%. If the patient's lungs are diseased, then they need more oxygen. Like if there is pneumonia or there is damage to the alveoli, then they need to given high oxygen. So we can increase from 20% to 100%, depending upon the need of the oxygen. So we have a total control through a simple knob or simple button. We can increase the oxygen requirement according to the patient need. So FiO2 is the inhaled oxygen. So it will match according to the ABGs that we will be discussing later on. The next is, after FiO2, is peak inspiratory pressure. Peak inspiratory pressure is the maximum pressure achieved during inspiratory. There are two cycles of respiration. One is inspiration and one is expiration. So the peak, if you want to push air into the lungs, you have to create high pressure. So peak inspiratory pressure is the pressure delivered during inspiration, so that the air can go inside the lungs. If you ask machine to give PIP, you need to give the amount of pressure, like 20, 30, whatever order you will give, the machine will deliver that pressure directly to the patient. So there will be no problem. I'm sorry, I have to connect laptop with the battery. 1 minute, just 1 minute. Okay. So the battery was running out, so I had to connect with the battery. So then this is the maximum pressure achieved during inspiration. So we can control through one knob by giving pressure. So PEEP, what is PEEP? PEEP is the pressure that maintained throughout the respiration. During inspiration and expiration, the airways are slightly distended. Normally, the PEEP is between 3 to 4, but we can increase the PEEP. What is the benefit? If you increase the PEEP, all the airways starting from the upper airways to the lower airways to the alveoli, they will be distended. They will be inflated slightly. The inflation will improve in oxygenation as well as delivery of air down to the airways. So if you maintain small amount of pressure during expiration, it will prevent collapse of alveoli during expiration. So that they can be easily inflated again during inspiration. So peak inspiratory pressure and PEEP. PEEP is a constant pressure throughout inspiration and expiration, and PIP is over and above high pressure that further inflate the airways. And increasing PEEP will increase the distensibility of the airways so that the PIP can be delivered easily. So it will facilitate breathing, PEEP, during during normal breathing or during delivery of PEEP. So PEEP is a constant pressure. Frequency. Frequency is a number of breaths that ventilator will deliver. Like if you set 20 breaths per minute, the ventilator will give 20 breaths every minute. How the frequency will be set, we will be discussing subsequently. So you order a ventilator, give 20 breaths per minute, the ventilator will start giving 20 breaths per minute. You order 40 breaths, you will follow that instructions. How we'll do that, we will be discussing later on. Then inspiration time. This is very important. Inspiration time and expiration time. Basically, when we are discussing inspiration time and expiration time, we are actually discussing about the breath size. If a child is breathing at a respiratory rate of 60 breaths per minute, so what should be the inspiratory? What should be the inspiratory time? What should be the expiratory time? At 60 breaths per minute, how much is inspiratory time and how much is the expiratory time? So, in each second, the patient is taking one breath. So, one breath equal to 1 second. Total one breath is 1 second. Normally, 2/3 of the respiration is expiration and 1/3 of the time is inspiration. So, if the total duration of breath, if a child is breathing at 60 breaths per minute, the total duration of the breath is 1 second. You understand this point? If a child is breathing at rate of 60 breaths per minute, then in each second, one breath is being delivered. So, if you make a dissection of that one breath, each breath has inspiration and expiration. So, normally, the inspiration time is 1/3 and expiration time is 2/3. So, if we divide this total 1 second into two parts, then it will be 0.3 second and 0.7 second. So, this is the normal distribution that we see in the normal breathing. But we can change it. We can increase inspiration time to 0.4 and reduce the expiration time to 0.6. So we can manage IE ratio. Why we need to manage IE ratio? Suppose at 60 respiratory rate, if the patient's oxygenation is not improving with the IE ratio of 1:3, that you have set inspiration time of 0.3 and the patient's oxygenation is not getting better, you can increase inspiration time so that the more time is given for the delivery of the gases and distension of the airways, so more oxygenation will take place. So you can make the ratio 0.4 inspiration time and 0.6 expiration time. This will facilitate oxygen delivery. Similarly, you can make it half. You can make this total one breath 0.5 second inspiration and 0.5 second expiration. So this will further facilitate oxygen. Even you can make a reverse ratio, like more inspiration time and less expiration time. But the disadvantage of this is if you decrease expiration time, there will be cooling of carbon dioxide because you are not allowing enough time for the PCO2 to come out of the airways. So there will be gas trapping and there will be more chances of developing pneumothorax. So you must understand the breath size. Breath size is according to the respiratory rate. If the respiratory rate is 30 seconds, I will ask a question from the participants. If the respiratory rate is 30 per minute, then what is the duration of each breath? Please, Vikas, please unmute one of the participants. Is it possible? So, can anyone?
Dr. Taiba.
If the respiratory rate is 30, then how many breaths will be delivered in 1 minute? 30 breaths.
Sir, 30 breaths in 1 minute and 1 breath in 2 seconds.
2 seconds. So what will be the distribution of inspiration and expiration?
Sir, if we want to keep the ratio 1:2 inspiration to expiration,
1:3.
It would be
normally this is 1:3.
1:3. Sir, around about 0.7 seconds, 1.3 seconds.
Okay. So this is normally ratio. So if you reduce the respiratory rate, then you are providing more time for a respiratory cycle. Then the IE ratio will change. But this is the normal ratio. We can increase, if we need, we can increase inspiratory time to 1 second and expiratory time to 1 second. We can further reduce inspiratory time to 0.6 second. So according to the need, according to the condition of the patient, we can modify. And we have in our hand inspiratory time. If we set inspiratory time, the expiratory time will be automatically set, right? And this will be according to the respiratory rate. Is this understood to everyone? Should move to the next. So as I already mentioned, PIP. So when you are giving PIP, mean peak inspiratory pressure, you are delivering air at a very high pressure into the airways, and airways are getting distended. The air that is going into the lungs is called, during PIP, is called tidal volume. So when a person is inhaling air, he is inhaling tidal volume. But if the patient is on ventilator, he is inhaling PIP. And PIP is nothing else but a pressure. The ventilator is creating a high pressure and pushing air into the lungs. And the volume of the air that is going into the lung during the delivery of PIP is called tidal volume. So PIP actually delivers tidal volume. Or you can deliver tidal volume and achieve PIP. So these are both things you can do one way or the other. If you deliver PIP, actually it is delivering tidal volume. If to deliver tidal volume, it will create pressure. So pressure limited ventilation or volume limited ventilation. If you are using pressure mode, you will set PIP, and whatever the PIP you will set, according to that pressure, the volume will be delivered. So you can change tidal volume by changing PIP. Similarly, you can change PIP by changing the delivery of tidal volume. So these are the controllable keys. In pressure mode, you control PIP. In volume mode, you control volume. So I hope you understand tidal volume. So what should be the minimum tidal volume? The tidal volume is 6 to 8 ml per kg. Like if the child is of 10 kg, then how much tidal volume should be given? 60 ml, 60 to 80 ml. If the child is 10 kg, mean 10 multiplied by 6 is 60. So whatever the pressure we are delivering, we should make sure that this pressure is generating at least 60 or 80 ml, 60 to 80 ml of tidal volume in a 10 kg patient. If we are using volume mode, we will deliver 6 to 8 ml per kg of volume to achieve the pressure of 20 or 22, whatever we want. So if you are managing volume mode, you will adjust tidal volume. If you are managing pressure mode, you are adjusting pressure to get the volume. Minute ventilation. What is minute ventilation? Can anyone define minute ventilation among the juniors? Bukhar, do you understand about what is minute ventilation?
Ji, sir. I think it is the volume which is delivered in 1 minute.
Okay, so the total exchanges that take place in 1 minute, and the total volume, we will take into account the total volume of all the breaths, and then we'll take suppose there are 60 breaths in 1 minute, and each breath is 60 ml. Each breath deliver a volume of 50 ml, and there are 50 breaths. Then how much will be the minute ventilation? 50 rate, and each breath is delivering 50 ml. So you can multiply both, and you will get the tidal volume.
50 multiplied by 50.
Per kg. You can use tidal volume per kg. Like if you are using 5 ml per kg, so 5 ml into 60, so you can get the minute ventilation. How much the ventilation is taking place in 1 minute. So you can use whether the child is being underventilated or overventilated, whether we need to reduce the setting of tidal volume, respiratory rate to adjust that minute ventilation. So alarms are set to set the limits that the ventilator should not go beyond the permissible values. What are the triggers? Actually, the new ventilators, how the ventilator synchronize with the patient breathing. The old ventilators, there was no mechanism of synchronization. You put the patient on a ventilator and you set a rate, you set all values, and machine will operate. Will not see what the patient is doing, whether the patient is inhaling, exhaling. The machine will not come to know. So the machine will keep delivering according to the set condition and will not take into account whether the patient is inhaling or exhaling. So even machine can give breaths when the patient is exhaling and end up with the disaster. So if you want to ventilate with that type of machine, you have to paralyze the patient. Because if there is a mismatch, like if a patient is inhaling and you are giving breath, then there will be a counter cope and there will be a disaster. So, but now modern machines, there is no need of paralysis, no need of even sedation. Now the modern machines, they are synchronized. The machine before delivery will assess whether the patient is in inspiration phase or expiration phase. If the patient is in inspiration phase, only then the ventilator will deliver breath. If the patient is in expiration phase, the ventilator will wait, will not give delivery of breath, will wait for some time, and when the inspiration start, then give the breath. So how the ventilator will come to know that the patient has now inspiratory phase? This is through triggers. Ventilator get a message from the patient circuit. How to get? Like if the patient start a breath, what will happen? If you start a breath, you take air. If a slight amount of air moves through the endotracheal tube, there is a sensor near the endotracheal tube, that is flow sensor, and trigger center, that will pick up that signal that the patient has taken some air in. So that is called flow trigger. Now machine will get the message that the patient has started inspiration, and now the ventilator will give the full breath according to the size that we have already instructed. So ventilator will identify the time of inspiration by just entry of air into the airways. The second way, this is called flow trigger. Then is pressure trigger. Normally when we inhale, we create negative pressure. So when there is a negative pressure is created in the airways, that negative pressure is also felt by the flow sensor. And the flow sensor understand and know that the patient has initiated a breath and immediately deliver the breath according to the preset parameters. So triggers are very important, and triggers will identify that the patient has some spontaneous breathing and how to match the ventilator breath with the patient breath. So our machine is now very intelligent and it will coordinate with the patient's effort. So breath size and spontaneous, there are two types of breaths. If patient is spontaneously breathing, like you started with put the patient on a ventilator with 30 breaths per minute, but patient is spontaneously breathing and the total respiratory rate of the patient is 60 breaths. It means ventilator is controlling 30 breaths and rest of the 30 breaths are taken by the patients. And these breaths are not supported. So the size of breath given by the ventilator will be according to the instruction, like whatever the PIP you have set, whatever the PEEP you have set, whatever the other parameters, inspiratory time, expiratory time, will be exactly according to that. But the spontaneous breath will have different size. These breaths will not be supported unless you add support for these breaths. We will be discussing in the modes how to add support for spontaneous breath. So for 30 breaths, these breaths are calculated breaths as per the instructions given by the person while setting the parameters like PIP, P, inspiratory time, expiratory time. You have given instruction for 30 breaths, but you have not given instruction for the rest of the 30 breaths. So rest of the spontaneous breaths will be as per patient's desire, and the rest of these 330 breaths will be according to the preset parameters. So there will be difference in these breaths. But if there are 30 effective breaths, definitely they will improve the patient's spontaneous in-between breaths. But you cannot control spontaneous breath unless in the ventilator you add settings for the spontaneous breaths as well. So size of spontaneous breaths will be different for spontaneously breathing patients. You must understand ventilated breaths, supported breath, unsupported breath. Now comes to the modes. What are different modes? Those who are working, there are basically two types of mode. One is controlled mode and one is supportive modes. Control mode means the ventilator will do everything. The patient will not make the effort. In the past, there were complete control modes. There was no role of effort by the patient. So now there are synchronized mode, and among the synchronized mode, the most important modes are synchronized intermittent positive pressure ventilation and then assist control ventilation. These are the two important modes. So you can see in the screen, there is a SIMV mode, then there is a assist control mode. So assist control mode is not shown here. So assist control mode, and these are the different types of modes. But the SIMV mode is the more favorite. Why? Different modes have different specifications. Like if you want to put the patient on assist control, the patient is spontaneously breathing. You put the patient on assist control, then all the breaths initiated by patient will be supported according to the settings. But whatever the rate you have set, for that rate, the settings will be according to the ventilatory settings. So if the patient does not breathe during that time, then the mandatory breaths will be like if you set a rate of 30, patient is breathing at 60. But the ventilator keeps supporting all the 60 breaths. But if the patient is not breathing at all, the 30 breaths at least will be supported according to the preset values. This is the synchronized mode. Intermittent mandatory ventilation. The rest of the 30 breaths, spontaneous breaths, will not be supported. And if you want to support for that, you can add another mode with SIMV that is called pressure support mode for those breaths that are not supported. So 30 breaths, if you set a rate of 30 breaths will be according to your setting, and rest of the 30 which are patients initiated and unsupported, they will be supported by the pressure support. You can add the amount of pressure that you want for those settings. There is a pressure controlled ventilation and volume controlled ventilation. We have already discussed that the settings where we are adjusting a key of PIP and pressure, that is pressure control mode, and the other one where we are using volume, that is the volume controlled ventilation. So these are the two comparable modes. Pressure support mode, this is just weaning mode. Simply patient is spontaneously breathing, we just add a pressure support for each breath. There will be support, and the breaths will be of good size and give good tidal volume and improvement in the oxygenation. CPAP we have already discussed. We can use ventilator for CPAP, but by primarily using ventilator for CPAP is not fair, because if a patient needs CPAP, the patient should be on non-invasive ventilation of CPAP. But CPAP on invasive ventilation is used for weaning purpose. Like if the patient is improving, then you apply CPAP for some hours and then you extubate. So these are the settings. If you are using pressure mode, FiO2, rate, inspiration time, and PIP will be set. But if you are using volume mode, then the tidal volume will be set. So there is a difference in the instructions. So these are the initial suggested setting. We will be discussing how to adjust. So now there are different keys which affect oxygenation and there are different keys which affect ventilation. Oxygenation means they increase the airway pressure, mean airway pressure. Like if you increase FiO2, it will increase oxygenation. If you increase P, it will also increase oxygenation. If you give more inspiration, time for inspiration, it will increase oxygen. You increase PIP. So these are the 4 parameters. If hypoxia is a major problem, then you increase any of these settings in a very fine-tuned manner. If there is a problem with the CO2 retention, then you have to increase the respiratory rate, you have to increase tidal volume or respiratory rate, both, or you have to adjust inspiratory to IE ratio. You reduce inspiratory time, increase the expiratory time. So these are the values to control carbon dioxide. These are the values to adjust oxygen. And then there are different parameters. The ventilator, when you are delivering some values, the ventilator itself is also monitoring and giving these values on the display. We will be discussing that during the subsequent sessions. And alarms, what is the purpose of alarm? We give instruction that the pressure should be 20 and tidal volume should not exceed 250. We set FiO2 to 60%, it should not fall below 40%. So we now set these alarms that if anything goes wrong or anything goes against our instructions, then the ventilator should give alarm so that we come to know that there is a problem. We should address that, either change the setting or troubleshoot that. So alarms, how to set alarms, we will be discussing in the practical demonstration sessions. So this is the end of the module 1. And if there are questions, I think just making a presentation on this subject is not worthwhile, because the most important is the people who are using, they are coming across the different issues. Now we should be discussing in this session what are these keys for, what is the purpose of these keys, or if there are any problems, so that we can discuss in this session. So if you have any question, you can unmute your mic and then speak.
जी डॉक्टर यासिर, आपने हैंड रेज किया है, अपना माइक अनम्यूट करें और क्वेश्चन करें. जी डॉक्टर यासिर. डॉक्टर यासिर, आपकी आवाज आ रही है? अपना माइक अनम्यूट करें और क्वेश्चन करें. अगर किसी और पार्टिसिपेंट का क्वेश्चन है तो अनम्यूट करके क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं.
Sir, there is one question regarding the minute ventilation. As you have told us in the session that minute ventilation equals tidal volume into respiratory rate, then we have to divide this whole per kg. And what is the ideal minute ventilation for different ages?
Okay. Basically, minute ventilation is different for different age groups. If we talk about the neonates, the minute ventilation, it starts from 240 to 500. It should be in between. Like when we talk about minute ventilation, we talk about hyperventilation and hypoventilation. You understand? So minute ventilation means the exchange of air over the whole 1 minute. So if we are exchanging more than the desired air, it means we are hyperventilating. So hyperventilation is by 2 ways. Either you increase tidal volume or increased respiratory rate. If you increase respiratory rate, increase tidal volume, there will be more exchange of air. So this is called hyperventilation. What will be the sequence? What will be the result of hyperventilation? The CO2 will be washed out. Although oxygenation will get better, but CO2 will fall down. When the CO2 will fall down, then the hypocarbia will have its own complications. So we will keep monitoring and keep the minute ventilation within the normal range to avoid hyperventilation. Similarly, we should not also allow under ventilation. Like if the tube is blocked, tidal volume is not getting delivered. You have set a rate of 60, but the tidal volume is not going to the patient. Then 60 multiplied by 0 is 0. So under ventilation, this minute ventilation will show you whether the child is being under ventilated or hyperventilated. Different values will be according to the patient's age and according to the patient's weight. We can have different conditions in which we can define the values. Like in certain conditions, we allow hypocarbia. Like if there is raised intercurrent, if you're ventilating for raised ICP, we allow PCO2 of 30 or less than 30. There are conditions in which we allow permissive hypercarbia. We allow PCO2 of 50, like in RDS, we can accept PCO2 of 50. So minute ventilation and level of carbon dioxide is according to the patient's condition. Whether we want to ventilate at lower minute ventilation or at higher ventilation, this is according to the need of the patient and condition of the patient. But we should know actually how to fine tune minute ventilation. We can increase minute ventilation by increasing tidal volume or increasing respiratory rate. We can decrease minute ventilation.
जी, इसके अलावा और किसी पार्टिसिपेंट का कोई क्वेश्चन? अपना माइक अनम्यूट करें और क्वेश्चन करें, या बेशक चैट में लिख दें.
Basically, the lecture is not important. I am more interested in the question answer session, because the people who are using ventilator, they will have so many questions. So this is a forum for the discussion on the issues, because this is the basic mode and basic things are known by many of our PGs, but some of the house officers and some of the junior doctors, they may not be knowing it. So this is an opportunity to discuss all these things, so that when we start next module, we should not have any queries related to what is FiO2, what is PEEP, what is PEEP, and what is the purpose of these things.
सर, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि जब आप वेंटिलेटर पे सेटिंग करते हैं तो उसमें ऑक्सीजन और FiO2 ये दो अलग पैरामीटर्स हैं. काइंडली इसमें थोड़ा डिफरेंशिएट कर दीजिएगा. ऑक्सीजन सेटिंग हम करते हैं और FiO2 एक अलग पैरामीटर आ रहा होता है.
अच्छा, इसमें ना दो तरह के, एक होते हैं जो वैल्यूज, सेट वैल्यूज होती हैं, एक होती हैं जो वैल्यूज मॉनिटर्ड वैल्यूज होती हैं. दो तरह की होती हैं. जो सेट ना, हम FiO2 को सेट करते हैं. हम जो सेट करते हैं, मसलन हम सेट करते हैं FiO2 40%. हमने 40% सेट किए, फिर हम जाके मॉनिटरिंग में चेक करते हैं कि हमने 40% सेट की थी, क्या इसको डिलीवर 40% ही हो रही है. तो वो डिलीवरी जो पेशेंट, जो फ्लो सेंसर या जो ऑक्सीजन सेल के थ्रू वो उसको सेंस करता है ना वेंटिलेटर के, आपने तो 40 सेट की थी तो ये 40 ही जा रही है. तो मतलब सिर्फ इतना है कि आपका जो ऑक्सीजन सेल है, ऑक्सीजन सेंसर है, वो बिल्कुल सही काम कर रहा है, और जितनी आप सेट कर रहे हैं वो उतनी ही शो कर रहा है और उतनी डिलीवर हो रही है. ये दो है. सेट आपने FiO2 ही करनी है. जो है वो आप 20 से लेके 100% हो सकती हैं, या 0.2 से 1, जैसे भी आप इसको की जो भी इसके लिए आप यूज कर लें.
जी, डॉक्टर रेमन का एक क्वेश्चन है. आप ना माइक अनम्यूट करें और क्वेश्चन करें. रेज हैंड किया उन्होंने.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर. सर, आई वांट टू नो कि जिस तरह स्पॉन्टेनियस वेंटिलेशन है और कंट्रोल्ड वेंटिलेशन है, जब हम लोग नॉर्मली पेशेंट वेंट पे जो है वो उसको डालते हैं, तो हाउ वी डिटरमिन के पेशेंट की स्पॉन्टेनियस एफर्ट कितनी है विद द वैल्यूज.
वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. अगर आप उसके अंदर वेंटिलेटर पे होता है मॉनिटरिंग, अगर आप उसको मॉनिटरिंग, एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग है, आप कौन सा वेंटिलेटर यूज कर रहे हैं? हॉस्पिटल वाला यूज कर रहे हैं?
जी सर.
इसके अंदर ना एक की है एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग. ठीक है, अगर आप इसको एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग को प्रेस करेंगे ना, तो ये बहुत सारे पैरामीटर दे देगा. ठीक है, मॉनिटर जो वेंटिलेटर खुद बताएगा, तो वो उसमें आपको बता देगा कि इसका जो स्पॉन्टेनियस रेट इतना है और इसका जो है वो सपोर्टेड रेट इतना है। सपोर्टेड रेट का तो आपको पता है ना, वो तो आपने खुद सेट किया हुआ है, लेकिन जो स्पॉन्टेनियस रेट है वो जो एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग में मॉनिटर्ड वैल्यू में आ जाएगा, आपको दिखा देगा वो।
ठीक है।
दूसरा एक और तरीका इनडायरेक्ट भी है, एक और भी तरीका है कि आपने पेशेंट का रेस्पिरेटरी रेट सेट किया हुआ है 40।
जी सर।
और आप पेशेंट का जाके बेड साइड पे पेशेंट का रेस्पिरेटरी रेट ले लें, उसका 70 है।
जी सर।
तो आपने 40 सेट किया है, 40 सेट किया है, आ रहा है 70, इसका मतलब है स्पॉन्टेनियस कितना है?
30 सर।
30 एक्स्ट्रा है, लेकिन हो सकता है कि जो आपने सेट किया है उनमें से भी कुछ ब्रेथ स्पॉन्टेनियस को सपोर्ट कर रहा हो। ये
जी सर।
वो एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग में वो एग्जैक्टली आपको दिखा देगा।
थैंक यू सर।
जी, और किसी पार्टिसिपेंट का कोई क्वेश्चन? सर एक क्वेश्चन आया है चैट पे कि व्हाट इज द रेंज ऑफ पीआईपी एंड पीक?
ओके,
पॉजिटिव इंस्पिरेटरी प्रेशर एंड पीक एक्सपिरेटरी प्रेशर।
जी, ये क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल रेलेवेंट है कि बेसिकली पिप जो है वो आपने जो रेंज है वो डिफरेंट एज में और डिफरेंट कंडीशंस में रखना है। मसलन हम न्यूनेट्स की एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं। अगर न्यूनेट है और उसका वेट है 30 kg, अगर न्यूनेट है और उसका वेट 30 kg है, तो यूजुअली उसका जो स्टार्टिंग प्रेशर है वो हम 18 से स्टार्ट करते हैं। ये हमें पता है कि अगर हम 17 to 18 से स्टार्ट करें तो इससे जो टाइडल वॉल्यूम डिलीवर होगा ये 6 to 8 ml per kg डिलीवर हो जाएगा। लेकिन जैसे ही हम 18 सेट करते हैं, जो भी डिजीज है उसको हमने 18 सेट किया प्रेशर पिप, तो जैसे ही अब टाइडल वॉल्यूम हम कहाँ देखेंगे? हम जैसे ही एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटर खोलेंगे उसमें टाइडल वॉल्यूम दिखा देगा। तो जैसे ही हमने 18 सेट किया और एक बच्चा 10 kg, एक बच्चा 3 kg का है, तो 3 kg को अगर हमने 18 पिप सेट किया है तो उसका टाइडल वॉल्यूम कितना आना चाहिए? अगर 8 ml पर kg है या 6 ml पर kg है तो कितना आना चाहिए वकार? 18 आना चाहिए।
जी सर,
18 आना चाहिए। और हम देख रहे हैं कि टाइडल वॉल्यूम आ रहा है 8। इसका मतलब ये है कि जो पिप हमने 18 सेट किया है उससे डिजायर्ड टाइडल वॉल्यूम नहीं आ रहा, तो हम उसको 20 कर देते हैं। पिप को 20 किया और उधर से फिर हमने एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग में जाके टाइडल वॉल्यूम देखा और अब टाइडल वॉल्यूम जो है वो 20 हो गया या 18 हो गया। इट मीन्स के हमने पिप को शुरू में सेट करना है अकॉर्डिंग टू अवर नॉलेज, अकॉर्डिंग टू द वेट एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू द एज ऑफ द पेशेंट। लेकिन उसको साथ ही हमने एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग में जाके देख लेना है कि हमारा टाइडल वॉल्यूम जो डिजायर्ड है वो आ गया कि नहीं आ गया। अगर नहीं आ गया तो हम उसको जल्दी से ऊपर नीचे कर सकते हैं। बिल्कुल उसी तरह जैसे FiO2 है, आप FiO2 शुरू में 80% शुरू करते हैं, 60% से शुरू करते हैं, लेकिन आप देखते हैं कि इसको तो जल्दी जल्दी 5-5 मिनट के बाद आप काम करते करते 50 पे ले आते हैं और आप देखते हैं कि इसको तो 40 की जरूरत थी, तो आप आधे घंटे में 40 पे आ जाते हैं, तो उसके ऊपर फिक्स कर देते हैं। फिर उसके बाद आगे ब्लड गैसेस के अकॉर्डिंगली उसको फर्दर एडजस्ट करते हैं।
सर इसमें यही है कि जब आप वेंटिलेटर पे किसी को शिफ्ट करें तो आपने उसकी प्रॉपर मॉनिटरिंग करनी है और उसके अकॉर्डिंग मैनेज करना है एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग के थ्रू।
तो बिल्कुल एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग पे नजर रखनी है, एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग ऑन रखना है। और बल्कि एक्सपर्ट मॉनिटरिंग के अंदर ना कोई 30-40 पैरामीटर्स हैं। जिन पैरामीटर्स के बारे में आप ज्यादा वरीड है ना, उनको आप सिलेक्ट करके ना तो वेंटिलेटर की डिस्प्ले स्क्रीन पे ला सकते हैं। मसलन आप समझते हैं कि ये स्पॉन्टेनियस रेट मुझे चाहिए, मुझे टाइडल वॉल्यूम चाहिए, मुझे वेंटिलेशन चाहिए, इन 5-6 को आप सिलेक्ट करें और अपने फ्रंट स्क्रीन पे बस ले आए। बाकी सारों को देखने की जरूरत नहीं है। जो जो पैरामीटर्स आपको चाहिए कि मैं मॉनिटर करने हैं, बार बार देखने हैं, उनको आप एक साइड पे ले आए, उनको क्लिक करके उनको आप सिलेक्ट करके तो आप अपने पास ला सकते हैं और यूज कर सकते हैं।
सर एक डॉक्टर नमूना का क्वेश्चन है सर, व्हाट इज द मैक्सिमम वैल्यू ऑफ FiO2 दैट कैन बी गिवन एंड हाउ मच SpO2 शुड बी मेंटेन्ड आइडली?
किस एज ग्रुप में?
एज ग्रुप मेंशन किया
इसमें ये कि न्यूनेट्स, अगर आप न्यूनेट्स की बात करें तो जो स्टार्टिंग FiO2 है इट शुड बी 60%, शुड नॉट बी बियॉन्ड 60%। किसी भी न्यूनेट को लेस देन 28 डेज है तो आपने जो स्टार्टिंग FiO2 है 100% नहीं स्टार्ट करनी, आपने 60% से स्टार्ट करनी है। और नॉर्मल जो सैचुरेशन इंडेक्स है वो 88 to 94% है। 88 से ऊपर होना चाहिए, 94% से नीचे होना चाहिए। ये न्यू नेट्स के हैं। प्री मेच्योर हो तो उनकी सेटिंग्स 92% तक भी ठीक है, लेकिन जो फुल टर्म बेबीज हैं, जो 1 मंथ से ऊपर बियॉन्ड न्यूनेटल पीरियड है, उनको आप 100% FiO2 से स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं और फिर उनको आप ग्रेजुअली कम कर सकते हैं। उनकी सैचुरेशन जो है वो 90% से ऊपर होनी चाहिए, 90 to 96% तक होनी चाहिए। न्यू नेट में हम बेसिकली 88 से लेके 94 तक नॉर्मल ले लेते हैं।
इसके बाद एक डॉक्टर सायरा का क्वेश्चन है सर, डिस्पाइट ऑफ यूजिंग अप्रोप्रिएट ECG साइज एंड मिनट वॉल्यूम सेटिंग्स, वेंट गिव अलार्म्स ऑफ डिक्रीज मिनट वॉल्यूम, हाउ टू सेट दिस अलार्म?
अच्छा, अलार्म जो है ना, अलार्म एक टारगेट है। मैंने पहले भी बताया ना, अलार्म क्या है? अलार्म टारगेट है। अगर आपने टारगेट गलत सेट किया हुआ है तो मैं मशीन बार बार अलार्म करती रहेगी। आपका टारगेट था कि आपने इसको 500 से नीचे रखना है, आपने इसको 500 से ऊपर नहीं जाने देना, लेकिन जो आपने सेटिंग की हुई है, अलार्म आपने 500 का सेट किया हुआ है, लेकिन आपने जो सेटिंग की हुई है उसमें टाइटल वाली, उसमें जो आ रहा है जिस पे पेशेंट मेंटेन कर रहा है वो 600 पे मेंटेन कर रहा है। तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आपने जो मिनट वेंटिलेशन का अलार्म सेट किया था उस अलार्म में प्रॉब्लम है, उसको अलार्म को सही करें। एक तो ये सिचुएशन है। दूसरी सिचुएशन ये कि आपको चाहिए ही मिनट वेंटिलेशन 500। अगर आपको चाहिए ही 500 तो इसका मतलब ये है कि अब पेशेंट की कंडीशन या तो इम्प्रूव हो गई है। जब आपने इसको शुरू की थी वेंटिलेशन, उस वक्त जिन सेटिंग्स के ऊपर ये मिनट वेंटिलेशन 400 दे रहा था, सेम सेटिंग के ऊपर अब ये मिनट वेंटिलेशन 600 दे रहा है। इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? इसका मतलब हुआ कि पेशेंट की कंडीशन बेहतर हो रही है। इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अब आपको सेटिंग्स कम कर देनी चाहिए थी, उसका रेस्पिरेटरी रेट कम करना चाहिए या उसका टाइटल वॉल्यूम या पेप को कम करना चाहिए ताकि मिनट वेंटिलेशन अलार्म की रेंज में आ जाए। तो जब अलार्म बोलता है तो दो बातें हैं, या तो अलार्म गलत बोल रहा है या अलार्म आपको कह रहा है कि अपनी सेटिंग्स को कम करें। तो अलार्म को देख के आपने एक्शन जो लेना है वही देखना है कि क्या ये अलार्म मैंने सिंपल साइलेंट करना है या मैंने अपनी सेटिंग्स को चेंज करना है। अलार्म तो बजने नहीं देना हर वक्त। और अगर आपको लगता है कि जी मुझे मेरी इनिशियल अलार्म की सेटिंग ठीक नहीं थी तो उनको रीसेट करना।
सर मोस्टली हमारे जो अलार्म्स और ये सेंसर्स होते हैं ये खराब ही होते हैं इसलिए वो बजते रहते हैं।
देखिए, जो जब हम आइडियल वेंटिलेशन की बात करें तो आपके सेंसर सारे के सारे अप टू डेट होने चाहिए, ठीक है ना। तो जब हम लर्न करेंगे तो हम इसके ऊपर एक्शन भी लेंगे। ऑब्वियसली जब हमने वेंटिलेशन शुरू की थी, शुरू में हम बहुत सेंसिटिव थे, फिर जैसे जैसे टाइम गुजरता गया लोग इसमें जो वेंटिलेशन है ना और वेंटिलेटर की मैनेजमेंट है, इसके अंदर सबसे बड़ा फैक्टर है परसिस्टेंस। अगर आप समझते हैं कि आपको आ गया है, आप इसके बारे में बॉदर करना छोड़ देते। अब आप एक्सपर्ट हैं, अब आप इसको देखना भूल जाते हैं। पीजी है, वो जब सीख जाता है वो कहता है मुझे तो आता है, वो फिर मॉनिटरिंग में इन्वॉल्व नहीं होता। तो ये इसमें परसिस्टेंस बहुत जरूरी है कि आपने उसके अंदर एंड तक इन्वॉल्व होना है। जो बंदा ड्यूटी कर रहा है वो एक पेशेंट को वेंटिलेटर पे डाल के आप उसको छोड़े ना, फिर उसको हाउस ऑफिसर को असाइन कर दे। हाउस ऑफिसर भी अपने इंटरेस्ट के साथ एक गेम प्ले की तरह उसको लेके चले और फिर उसको सेटिंग्स को कम करके उसको उतारे, तब जाके वेंटिलेशन ऑप्टिमल होती है। अदरवाइज जो है वेंटिलेशन का कोई फायदा नहीं जब तक इन सारी चीजों को आप एड्रेस नहीं करेंगे।
जी, किसी और पार्टिसिपेंट का कोई क्वेश्चन?
मेरा ख्याल है कि ऑल द क्वेश्चंस हैज बीन एड्रेस्ड, और कोई रह भी जाएंगे तो इसको हम नेक्स्ट पे ले जाएंगे. नेक्स्ट जो मॉड्यूल होगा वो है किधर गया दूसरा मॉड्यूल. जो नेक्स्ट मॉड्यूल है वो उसमें इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ एबीजीज ये करेंगी डॉक्टर समीना, और साथ उसके उनके साथ मैं असिस्ट करूंगा. इसमें ये कि अगर बेसिक वेंटिलेशन मोड के बारे में कोई क्वेश्चंस आपके हों तो हम नेक्स्ट सेशन में स्टार्ट से पहले इसको डिस्कस कर सकते हैं. आप इसको लिख के ले आएं, इसको नोट करके ले आएं. आप क्वेश्चंस या तो क्वेश्चंस आप पहले से पोस्ट कर दें ताकि उनको हम एड्रेस करने में यानी 5-10 मिनट में हम एक स्पीच की शक्ल में उन सारे क्वेश्चंस को एड्रेस कर दें, और उसके बाद फिर हम अपना नेक्स्ट एबीजीज मोड करें. ये चीजों की रेपिटेशन साथ साथ होती रहेगी, और बाय द एंड ऑफ जब हम फाइनल मोड पे जाएंगे तो इंशाल्लाह हम कोई सेरेमनी भी करेंगे किसी न किसी तरीके से, अगर हालात ने इजाजत दी तो कम से कम सर्टिफिकेट तो जरूर. I think we should thank all the participants because graduates they are now leaving, so we should now stop here. Dr. Waqar,
Yes,
please
sir.
continue.
जी डॉक्टर तैयबा, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन है अभी? डॉक्टर समीना?
नहीं, all questions are mashallah excellent answered. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We were missing you for many of days, and sir, it was excellent.
We are inshallah together, and we are on board. We all together inshallah. We will stay together.
Inshallah, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all the participants. Allah.
चलिए लास्ट में सर आपका बहुत शुक्रिया. थैंक यू सो मच, आपने टाइम निकाला. डॉक्टर जुनेद? जी डॉक्टर जुनेद, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन? आपका माइक ऑन है.
थैंक यू वेरी मच. इट वाज वेरी नाइस प्रेजेंटेशन. और जो है ना तकरीबन सारी चीजें जो है ना वो सामने पहले भी जो है ना वो अपना चीजें जो है ना वो अपना सामने पहले भी हम सिखाई हुई हैं, और अब भी जो है ना प्रेजेंटेशन माशाल्लाह बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव थी, अंडरस्टैंडेबल. तो थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. इंशाल्लाह जो जिस आपने मॉड्यूल बताए हैं तो इंशाल्लाह वो हम साथ साथ आप लेके चलेंगे. थैंक यू सर.
जी अभी हमारा जो नेक्स्ट मॉड्यूल है वो नेक्स्ट सैटरडे को होगा इंशाल्लाह. तो
इंशाल्लाह
देखते हैं.
असल में जब ये सारे सेशंस हो जाएंगे ना एंड केस प्रैक्टिकल केस सिनेरियोज करेंगे तब आप बहुत एंजॉय करेंगे. फिर हम 1 बाय 1 एक बंदे से करवाएंगे, तो दैट उस पे कैसे कैसे वीन ऑफ कैसे कैसे डालना है, कैसे कैसे सिचुएशंस बना के वो देंगे सर इंशाल्लाह.
ठीक इंशाल्लाह. अच्छा, इनके जो ब्लड के टेस्ट करवाए थे ना वो लबलबे को देखने के लिए करवाए थे.
मेरे ख्याल से भी फिर ऐसे मीटिंग को आज लीव करते हैं इंशाल्लाह. नेक्स्ट का फिर अभी सैटरडे को प्लान करते हैं. तो आपका बहुत शुक्रिया दोबारा कि आपने इतना टाइम दिया.
थैंक यू सो मच.
सब पार्टिसिपेंट का बहुत शुक्रिया. इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट सैटरडे को फिर दोबारा मुलाकात होती है.